Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons. Oh, hang on. He's not pressed that button. See, now this is what happens. All right, well, I can edit this bit out. It's fine. Welcome to Forged from Iron. This is the big debate. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Forged from Iron. And if this is worked properly, we are actually simulcasting on the West Ham network as well, which is quite a coincidence because you might have noticed if you are a subscriber to the West Ham network, and why wouldn't you be, there's someone here that you will recognise quite instantly, and it's this fella here. Please introduce yourself, panelist number 1.
Anton from the West Ham Network, massive West Ham fan. That's the priority for me, being a West Ham fan. But yeah, if you haven't already, go and check it out in the West Ham Network. But I'm glad to be here and joining you, Gatesy, on Forged from Iron YouTube channel. As Gatesy said, it's a new thing we're trying out. It's getting streamed on the West Ham Network channel and, of course, on Forged, which is the original channel for the show. So if you haven't already subscribed to Forged from Iron.
Cheers, Anton. And panelist number 2. Hang on. Press the wrong button. There we go.
Hi there. Budgie from Green Street Elites. And just want to welcome you all to the big debate. And I can confirm that you are live streaming on the West Ham Network as we speak.
Oh,
so back to you.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Panelist number 3.
Dennis. You might remember my mug from the West Ham Way YouTube channel back in the day. Not been on it so much these days, more of a part-timer. But looking forward to a nice little trip to Belgium tomorrow as well. Up the Irons.
Can't be bad. And panelist number 4.
Hi guys, Steve 50 here again. Being a West Ham supporter for over 50 years, that's why I don't show my face, because I look so haggard. Thank you for listening in tonight, and please subscribe to Forged from Iron.
Thank you very much indeed for your support. And speaking of support, ladies and gentlemen, as it says there, please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream to your social media platforms, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, as Anton has already implored you to do, and make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. We thank you very much indeed for your support. Now, speaking of support, we've had an awful lot of support when it comes to questions being submitted. We're very unlikely to get through all of this in an hour, but we'll clock off as many as we can. So, first contribution, one of you might be very familiar with this face that's about to pop up. So let's have question number 1, please.
G'day, Robert, sir. And I'd like to ask the panel what they thought about the the VAR situation with Brighton and Tottenham. 4 decisions, 4 VARs, all went against Brighton. 2 of them might be questionable, but 2 of them were just blatant, absolutely incompetence by VAR. And not VAR, the VAR technology is fine. It's the people running it. Now, it borders on complete incompetence at best. At worst, it was downright cheating. And for me, I sort of lean to the latter. Be interested to see what the boys think. Cheers, brothers. All the best.
Right. So Kieran's asking the question in the wake of the Brighton game, where, as he says, there was a couple of decisions that were more than questionable. Are the officials using VAR incompetent or cheating? I'll tell you what, we'll let you go first with this, Budge, with your old mate. What do you think?
Yeah, my old mate Ernie. Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for submitting such a tough question to answer, actually, Kieran. I can't really comment too much on the Brighton Tottenham thing because I didn't watch the game. I haven't watched the game. I've heard a little about the decisions and stuff, and I have to agree that in general, I think that VAR is favouring the more prestige, if you like, clubs in the league. You know, the top 6 or 8 clubs are generally getting VAR decisions going their way more often than not. I don't really want to put my name down to calling it cheating. I think it's more a case of favouritism. Whether that would be, identified as cheating or not, I don't know. But I think it's more favouritism towards the more prestige clubs. You know, they're the ones that get the TV time, etc., etc. So I think, the VAR, as Kieran rightly said, is being manned by complete incompetent fools, in my opinion. There needs to be a representative for the fans. There needs to be a representative for each of the clubs. And there needs to be a representative for the on-field referee. That's all they've got at the moment, is representatives for the on-field referee. And I don't think that that's a fair way of going forward. It's been trialled for the last couple of years or so, and it's getting better, but in some respects it's getting worse because these dubious decisions are being given more light these days. They're becoming more frequent, and I think that there's a big question to be asked, and I think there should be some kind of investigation going into VAR, because I think, as Kieran said, there has got to be, there's some favouritism, there's some leaning towards the more prestige clubs, really.
So, are you, just so I've understood you right, Budgie, are you saying that you would actually have in the VAR truck, along with the VAR and the assistant VAR, sort of 2 qualified referees, if you will, that you'd also have a representative of the clubs during the decision-making process?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Would that not possibly elongate the decision-making process, which is already a little
I do get that, but we're already getting elongated decision-making over clear and obvious infringements. So, I think that, I've got, there's got to be a way of making that process a lot more realistic and fair. That's that's
Fair
just my
enough.
suggestion.
No problem. I mean, it might be that some of the other lads might even be in agreement with you on that, Budge. So we'll move to Dennis. Your thoughts on the VAR more widely, not specifically, the Tottenham Brighton game, but VAR more generically.
I mean, it works at the World Cup. It worked at the Euros. It works in European games. It doesn't work in the Premier League. I've said this on other channels. I'm not going to sit here and plug other channels while I'm on this one, but it comes down to no. They're not West Ham channels. So
okay.
But it's they're going to comes down to the egos of the refs, in my honest opinion, because it's a bit like when it came in, it's almost felt like this attitude that the referees authority was being questioned by video refs. Whereas you go over to Germany, there was a great example. Bayern Leverkusen, I forget who they were playing. They had a player that was fouled twice, and initially both times the referee gave him a booking for diving and free kicked the other team. Looked at VAR, realised he had messed up, rescinded the yellow card, shook the player's hand, and both of them were given as penalties. That would never happen in a month of Sundays in the Premier League. It will be, oh, well, it's whether it's beyond reasonable doubt and all that kind of stuff. Whereas in European leagues, if there's a mistake, hands down, they're told to go look at it. There's someone constantly looking at it. It's not whether, oh, well, it was a mistake, but actually from your point of view, fair enough, it probably didn't look that way, which in my opinion, some of the decisions we as West Ham fans have been because of that as well, in my honest opinion. Regarding having representatives of the teams in the club in there, I think again that comes down to bias, because let's say you got a United official in there with a newly promoted official. United official's just going to big league them and be like, we're Man United, we're this, we're that, we're the reputation brand. And whatever decision's made, there's going to be accusation of potential bias or being leaned on. What I would have is an ex-striker and an ex-defender in there to give their professional opinion. That's what I would do. I'd have ex-pros in there alongside the referee saying, actually, no, or, well, yes. But what I have is I'd have them in the refs here 24/7 like they are in the rugby. And like it works. I can't stress enough. It works in Europe. It works in other countries. Where does it not work? The Premier League. That's all I'm saying.
Do you think there's a case that a lot of people say this, and I obviously watch quite a lot of rugby league and rugby union as well, where the refs are mic'd up and people it's all out in the open what the conversations
100%.
are going back and forwards? Is that what football needs to do?
Oh yeah, no, that's another sort of thing I get on my high horse about. Like the NFL, the referee has to not just say, he has to actually get on the mic and explain to the fans what is happening. Because the excuses, well, some of the coaches are up in the stands and things like that. I think the referee should do that. Should have a little microphone to be like, similar like what you hear rugby on the TV. Have him explain the decisions. Have him explain the logic. There's an example of that Australian ref where it happened, and you understand why this is being given and things like that. I think it's a lot more. I mean, you could argue that it would then put the referee under pressure from the fans, but they're going to get that pressure regardless. I mean, it's very hard to get a penalty at Old Trafford as it is. I don't think explaining it to the fans why you're not giving the penalty is going to make it even harder, personally. So, yeah, I'd 100% would agree with that. Fair
enough. Anton, over to you, old friend, on this hot topic of VAR.
That's a tough act to follow, to be honest, because I think the two lads have given a really good answer with regards to VAR. I mean, it's inconsistent. And it's ruined the spectacle, which is football. It's taken away from the enjoyment of the game. I remember going back to the first game where away fans or fans were fully allowed in football stadiums when we played Newcastle, first game of the season, 4-2. We won away from home. And we had scored, and then suddenly VAR came up, and it was my first real experience of it, impacting that moment, and you just sit in that wait and that anticipation, and it's a crap situation. With regards to the game at the weekend, it's a disgrace. I mean, listen, we as West Ham fans have been on the receiving end of terrible decisions, disgusting decisions as well. And you're talking about, this is the thing that we love the most. We love football. We love West Ham. But if you go back to the whole kind of reasoning why, it's a business now. It's a money-making Premier League, and they're getting such big decisions wrong, awfully wrong. And I agree with parts of what the guys say in terms of we need other people in the room. There needs to be ex-professionals who understand the game, who can challenge the referee, who understands the refereeing, where we don't maybe understand the refereeing to the level that they do. Because I don't know if any of you have seen the clip of Gary Neville and Jimmy Carragher taking on a session with a linesman, and it's really like it's the fine margins between getting it right and wrong. But if you've got the situation where Dennis has said, you go across other countries and they get it so right, and other sports they get it right. But I think the problem you've got here is that, and I agree with the point you said there, Dennis, about the pressure on the referee. Sometimes when the referee goes over to that camera, you feel like the pressure's on for them to change their mind. They've been asked to go, and automatically now we all as fans think, well, he's going to change his mind because that's what they all do. And none of them really stand up and go, do you know what? No, it's actually wrong. And it's a pressure, and they're going to get absolutely terrorized either way. So it's weird that it favors the top clubs. It's too coincidental maybe, and it's frustrating. I don't like it, but there's got to be something that can be done to change it, and I don't know what that is, but I think you have to make a start by bringing people who understand the game of football into it. And I think in everything in life you have rules and regulations, but there's going to be a time and a place where you have to give the benefit of the doubt or not. Good answers from the other guys though.
Fair enough, Anton. So we'll move on to Steve. Your thoughts on VAR?
Well, I can't comment specifically on the Brighton game because I haven't seen it. But I would say I think the standard of refereeing I've seen at home games has been pretty low this season and inconsistent. Now, on the back of that, I think VAR that I find correct is run by ex-refs is inconsistent. I think there's probably a subconscious bias towards the bigger clubs, and it needs looking at. The whole refereeing and officiating system needs looking at, from the ref on the pitch to the linesman to VAR, because as was mentioned previously, we're looking at a multi-million-pound business now, and it's just not fit for purpose. Everyone's going to make a mistake. You're going to get injustices in whatever system you have, but there seem to be an awful lot of them, and it seems to be terribly inconsistent. And also, it takes a long while. For me, I'd say if you can't make a decision in the VAR room after a minute, the ref's decision on the pitch stands. Because how long did we have to wait when we scored against Southampton? I think it was 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of time to work out if someone's offside or not. So, for me, ref's decision stands if VAR can't sort it out after a minute. And I think we need to improve the standard of officiating just across the board, because I just don't think it's good enough on the whole.
Fair enough, Steve. If there was one change, Steve, just sort of like to keep it on you for a moment. If there was one change you could make tomorrow to VAR, or indeed, would you get rid of VAR and go back to what we used to have, where the referee was the sole arbiter of the rules of association football and the referee's decision was final, whether that was correct or whether that was incorrect?
I would have more on pitch transparency from both the ref and VAR. And I'd have the ref mic'd up explaining what's going on and why a decision is made the way it is. That would help an awful lot, I think. I like the concept of it. I don't like its application at all. I think it slows the game down. I think it takes away the excitement of celebrating goals. I just don't think it's fit for purpose at the moment. It is in other leagues. It works well. Worked at the Euros, worked in the World Cup, works in Germany, etc., etc. But we can't seem to get it right. So I think we need to look at how we use it and be much more transparent in the way we use it.
What do you think about this point that Miles has made? Just before we go on to the next question, chaps, he makes the point that we should maybe involve ex-professionals. Now, obviously that's not going to be professionals at a Premier League level, because they earn such a sort of like a fantastic wage at the top end of the game. Why on earth would they go into refereeing? But if you've got pros that are a little bit further down, League One, League Two, maybe sort of like Conference National or something like that, maybe involve them. Is there any mileage in that? If I sort of like bring that to you first of all, Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, when he says ex-pro, I'm not 1,000,000% sure where that deviates from player, because he said that players love the spotlight. But I'm saying it doesn't need to be like a big player. It can be someone that, preferably not someone that's already a pundit, so we can rule out Jermaine Genius, but like someone that was bang average, you get them. That's just the thing. I'm not too sure where you deviate between pro and player. Do you mean like lower league players, which again, that I would still class that as a player? I mean, if Steve Claridge fancies having a go, give it to Steve Claridge, you know. But yeah, I just feel that there needs to be a professional element of people that have lived and breathed in the moment. I'd also, you know, got to be conscious of bias here if they've played for clubs and things like that, of course. But I just feel that refs are almost like, it's almost like the only comparison I can make is it's a bit like, if anyone here has ever worked at a store like Sports Direct, like I did when I was at uni, if you got a manager that was a manager that knew how to manage people and manage a store, you were fine. If you got the manager trained by a head office that told them how the delusions of Sports Direct head office and how everything's meant to work and how every single person in the world wants to buy one of those flipping bags for life, you know you're going to have a terrible shift. That's what's like. The refs are trained sort of to be like the perfect world, and they've not lived it and things like that. They've got an interest in sport, they're fans. That's the way I see it. That's why I would have ex-pros in there on the video, if not a referee who's more than likely to empathise with the referee rather than the actual game.
Yeah, fair enough. Anton, anything you want to say on that?
I completely agree with what Dennis said there, actually. If I go back to the West Ham Larnaca game, I think the player got sent off for a tackle on, I want to say it was...
Fornells,
wasn't it? And Fornells kind of stepped up and was like, oh, no. Like, it wasn't denying the fact it was maybe potentially a bad one, but it was a mistake, was what Fornells was trying to say. And it was non-intentional. The player got sent off. And I think that's what you need, that, you know, good analogy, actually, Dennis. You know, if you get a manager who is going to follow the book to the gun, and then you get someone else who uses the common sense. And sometimes in football and anything in life, you need a little bit of common sense. And I think that that's a valid point. And I always go back to that scenario with Fornells. You know, not very often you see a player step up to the equation and go, ref, as if like, ref, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you can't do that. But he did, and fair play to him. And it didn't work because the referee was like, no, the rule is the rule, that is that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way.
Budgie, anything you want to sort of make your point about? Should we involve ex-pros?
The idea of using ex-pros is actually far more feasible and far more realistic, if you like, than a club representative or fans or whatever involvement. It's a far more realistic proposition, and you know, it's probably more palatable as well with, you know, everybody that pays their ticket and goes through the turnstile. It's probably a lot more palatable. So yeah, I would. You know, I mean, I would be in full support of something of that nature. The point that I want to make, closing on the VAR thing, is that I don't think we're at the point now where a VAR decision can overrule a referee's decision after the event, is it? I mean, like 2 or 3 minutes down the line, they can't make the referee pull the game up, can they? My fear is that can happen.
So, but
it happened.
Yeah, but my fear is that will be implemented. You know, if we put too much of an emphasis on the VAR side of things, you know, my fear is that they're going to go 3 or 4 minutes down the line. Hang on a minute, that fella there, like, shoved that guy when the free kick was being taken, you know, and he fell over. I think you should give a free kick. You know, I just hope that doesn't get implemented, because that would really ruin the game. You know, we'd end up with like 90-minute halves. It would be ridiculous.
I mean, they have a thing like this. Why Saka's fouled in the build up to France's opener against us, the quarters didn't count because it was too long in the break of play and whatnot. So that is existent. And just to quickly before Anton comes in, that did happen once in Germany. They blew for full time or something. They said, actually, no, that was a penalty,
time, wasn't it? Yeah.
Or half time, was it? Half time, full time. Went out and took the penalty.
They brought them out of the changing room.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
they're giving their half-time team talk, and it's like, sorry, mate, I'm just going to give a penalty here, and you're like, what?
But it's quite interesting, though, because they've implemented some things that work, and then they just absolutely contradict it by doing what they do with VAR. For example, letting the game play. You know, initially when if someone was offside, they would let the game play out the scenario, and then once the play was finished, they pull the flag up. And initially when that was brought in, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But it was actually an ex-pro that said it was one of the best rules they brought in, because it keeps the flow of the game going. And if there is a fine margin, and if there is an offside or not an offside, you've let a natural goal come to its end. Yes, okay, it may be ruined by the fact that a player is offside, but you would rather the goal happen. A bit like when a foul happens and the referee doesn't give advantage. You know, you're like, fuck, oh my God, like give advantage. That's the rule. The rule is give advantage. And then
Yeah.
they get the advantage and the referee blows the whistle. So it's funny, the funny old game in it, they create a rule that benefits the game to then absolutely contradict it by doing something else that ruins it slightly. So
any final points you want to make, Steve, before we move on?
Yeah, I don't care who officiates games. It could be Basil Brush for me, providing he's competent and consistent. That's what I would like to see right across the board. Just competent, consistent refereeing and VAR. That would be good for me.
Fair enough. Right,
It'll end
so
up being AI eventually.
We've had a question submitted via someone in the live chat. As it says on the ticker at the bottom, get your questions in, begin with a Q at the start. Makes it easy to find. I can't promise I'm going to get through everyone. I've got an absolute raft of things to get through, and we're already nearly halfway through, but I'll do my best. Questions been submitted by Hammer89. What do you make of the news today that Sullivan and Moyes have agreed to part ways in May? Talk to me, Dennis.
Who's it come from? Talk Sport.
To be honest, this is the first.
Alex Cook on Talk Sport. Who leaks stuff to Talk Sport constantly? David Sullivan.
David Sullivan, isn't it?
Why would David Sullivan leak this just as we're in a relegation battle? Because it's what he likes to do, and to test the feelers out of what the fan reaction would be. He does it sometimes, like he used to use Jack Sullivan's Twitter for it, about how do you feel about this? See what fan reaction is. He's leaking this, floating the idea, try and keep fans on board at least until the end of the season, being like, oh yeah, well, looks like they're going to go, and assess options. And should we win the Conference League, use that as a justification to keep him for another year, to not pay the £4 million compensation money. I mean, if it was up to, I wouldn't be against it happening in real life, like that actually happening, going away with a bit of dignity. I don't really see the point in sacking him now, sadly, because anyone that's available, I can't see making the impact we need. As much as I'm not going to sit here and defend Moyes and say it's justified being it, I just don't see us getting rid of him. There's only like 8 games to go. If you were to go at the end of it, I'd quite like personally Rodgers would be the more stable hand for me out of the people that are available. But I think it's absolute nonsense, been leaked to TalkSport by David Sullivan just to see what fan reaction would be. Because I refuse to believe that even he would undermine his own manager to that extent. I mean, I know he did it with Zola, but I don't think he'd undermine that bit. I think he's just, TalkSport, their source at West Ham is either, certain reputable sources that they steal stuff from, or they get sent stuff directly by David Sullivan to Jim White or co. So, yeah, that's my 2 pence on that one.
Fair enough. Anton, your thoughts on that one?
Again, I do agree with what Dennis said, to be honest. I think David Sullivan's got a history of doing what he does, leaking stories, or testing the boat on what's actually going to happen in the future. I don't doubt for a second that David Moyes probably may leave this summer. But also I don't really know what's going to happen with the ownership of West Ham, because you can go from one day saying that Sullivan's there, the next day Sullivan's not there, Kretinsky's taking over, Kretinsky's not taking over, Moyes is going to stay, Moyes is not going to stay, Moyes is going to be here next season if we're in the Championship or the Premier League. Don't really know what to believe anymore, to be honest, but at the end of the day, it doesn't surprise me if this happens, and I think as long as we stay up, I think I agree with Dennis as well, we making a change now makes no difference to me at all whatsoever. We put to bed our feelings and thoughts on the negativity. We back the side, make sure we stay up in the Premier League, make sure we try and win a bit of silverware if we can, and then refocus and recenter ourselves this summer. It's needed. Something needs to change, and I think it will. I think it will change this summer. So I think Moyes, hopefully for his sake, can leave in a high, which is keeping us in the Premier League and winning something, and then say, "Cheers, lads, see you later." And that's him done. But if it goes the other way, it'll be an absolute disaster for West Ham. But I'm not surprised by that news. But also, I don't really know what to believe, if I'm being brutally honest, because, like I said, one day to the other is just different. So.
Fair enough, Anton. Next one to give their thoughts, Steve. What do you make of this particular nugget of information?
Well, I discount it because I actually think it'll entirely depend on where we finish in the league and if we win the conference. Because say we finish 12th, which is possible. I think unlikely, but it's possible. And we win the Conference League. You've then got arguably David Moyes as our most successful manager in the Premier League era. And Sullivan won't sack him if he's got 12th and wins the Conference League. As much as I think he should go, I think his time's up. I think it's gone stale. I don't think he's got anything new to bring to a team to move us forward. But this whole thing about they've agreed to go their own ways in May, I don't see it. I think Sullivan will wait and see where we finish in the league, if we win the Conference League, and if he's got any justification that he thinks is reasonable to keep Moyes on, that's what he'll do, because he doesn't want to pay the severance package, which I find particularly odd, but there you go. That's my thoughts on it.
Fair enough, Steve. And last but not least on this piece of information, Budgie, your thoughts?
Similarly to Steve, I think it's a lot of bollocks. But you know, I seriously, and I'm not actually convinced that it was David Sullivan that leaked this either. I think it could be, you know, somebody associated with the club, or you know, or even somebody not even connected with the club who just thought that would be a good story to put out. I just think it's, you know, blowing smoke. To be honest with you, I think it's been done to kind of destabilise any harmony there might be at the club. You know, I mean, we know that the harmony has been, you know, completely devastated in the last 2 years. It doesn't seem to be as harmonious as it was. I just think this is, you know, another cheap shot across the bows, basically.
Fair enough. Right. So that's that question dealt with, I think. Unless there's anything that any wants to make any further points before we move on to the next question, or has that been pretty much dealt with?
Dealt with.
We'll move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Next question. Again, this is someone that some of you might be familiar with the face that's about to pop up. So let's get into the next video question then.
Hello, Gatesy, and hello, everybody from Forge from Iron. It's Nick from Claret and Booze. Right, quick question for you. Do you think that David Moyes dumping all of the new signings against Fulham was finally an admission of failure this season? Basically admitting he can't get a tune out of these new players, that he's wasted 180 million. And if so, irrespective of where we finish this season, is that a sackable offence alone? And could he be trusted with the next rebuild in the summer, even if David Sullivan wanted to keep him on? That's it from me. Enjoy the show. Speak to you soon.
Over to you, Anton. Was the omission of our summer signings at Fulham a sign of Moyes' transfer ineptitude? Is that a sackable offence? And can he be trusted with a summer rebuild if he stays?
I love a good old rant from Nick from Claret and Booze. I have never actually been on a live stream with him, but I speak to him on a regular occasion, and I don't agree with everything he says, but I don't mind admitting that, and I've told him that as well. But I think when it comes to the omission of the signings, I think that when the pressure came under Moyes resorted to the norm, what he knows best, which is I'll go and rely on the players that got me through the last couple of years. I don't think that's an admission that he thinks that Agerd is crap, that Paqueta was crap because Paqueta picked up an injury, obviously. I'm not a fan of the way Moyes has managed his players, and in particular his players this season in particular. When I go back to the Scamacca situation, he should have started from the start of the season. He should never have had that bedding in period. I think I bought that bedding in period with Jared Bowen and a few of the other players, but I don't think it needed to be done with every player. And I think Scamacca was one of them. Every other team in the Premier League who signs their big striker plays him from the start. I don't want to bring Haaland to a whole new ballgame, but Isaac, I suppose you could say, from Newcastle, you know, by the time he played 3 or 4 games, he'd already had a couple of goals in the Premier League. And it wasn't Scamacca's fault because he didn't start in the Premier League for West Ham to get that opportunity. But essentially, Moyes knew what he was doing. the only credit I can give to David Moyes, which is a crazy comment I'm about to make, considering what we witnessed, was an absolutely dominant display from Fulham. But David Moyes knew what he was doing, and whether we like that or not, that's exactly what he knew we were going to do. And I've seen to all the guys in the chat that I'm involved in, buckle up, West Ham fans, because this is the football we're going to get between now and the end of the season. No matter probably what manager you bring in, this is going to be the football you're going to be getting from now till the end of the season, because we need to survive. Now, if this is 20 games ago, this is not the football I want to be seeing at West Ham, but we're not. We're in the results end of the season. We need to save our Premier League season, and this is the sort of football that potentially saves our season, that gets us out of the situation. Soak up all the atmosphere and try and counter every now and then. I mean, 70-odd% possession to the other one is risky. And I think if you do that against the likes of Arsenal's, you get demolished like we tried to do against the Newcastle's, although individual errors did play a big factor in that game. But essentially, I've switched my opinion. You know, I was Moyes in up until about 4 games ago, if I'm being really honest. And I'm now more Moyes out, but I'll hold off my ranting on it until the summer, because I need to make sure that West Ham need the backing of the club, get the backing of the fans, and I believe everyone has got the backing of the fans for West Ham trying to survive. But essentially, he's not going to get sacked, so we need to come off that bandwagon really, and support the team and get them through this moment. It's absolutely categorically been said he is not being sacked. When it comes to the summer, I would be really surprised if he was there for the rebuild, because we have another rebuild. We have to be, remember that. We've got a lot of players out of contract. We've got a lot of aging players. We'll need new players coming in. We don't know what the situation is with the ownership. We don't know what the situation is with the managers. No, because I support England, which people don't really know that. And that's that question, Hammer 89. Born and bred in Scotland, dad's London. England, that's just the controversial world I live in. So no, but he did give me some exciting times. David Moyes did. But will he be trusted with the summer rebuild? I don't think he will. But equally, though, we don't know who's going to be in charge at the top. I didn't like the football we saw. I don't think anyone in this room right now, anyone who's watching, liked what we saw against Fulham. But it's what we needed. And the only thing I'll say is David Moyes did say it's not about the performance on the pitch. It's about the results. And essentially, that's what we got.
Fair. So we move that particular question across to you, Steve.
I thought the performance was terrible. I hated watching it, but Moyes did exactly what he needed to do. We needed 3 points. I had a conversation with somebody and said, who was really ranting about the performance, and I said, okay, she'd rather have had stylish line football and we'd lost 2-0, because then we'd have been in deep trouble. So is it an admission of failure with the new players? No, I don't think it is. I also think he's rotating the squad like crazy because we've got so many games in April. Is it a sackable offence? No, he got 3 points. That is actually his job. His job, no matter how he does it, is to, at the end of 90 minutes, have 3 points for West Ham. And he did that. And for me, that was all that game was about. Could we get 3 points? And I'll be honest with you, if we did it again and we got something out of the Arsenal game, I'd be quite happy with it. Do I enjoy watching it? No, but we're not in a position where we can afford to be expansive and open and take risks. Do I think you'll be here in the summer? As I said in my previous question. On the previous question, it depends where we finish in the league and do we win the Conference League. I don't actually think, if I'm honest, yes, Moyes is responsible for what goes on the pitch, but I think the real issue at the club is Sullivan. There isn't any other chairman who would have let it go this far. And no matter who we get in, you're just sticking a plaster over the problem. You've got to get rid of Sullivan and get somebody in who knows how to run a football club. And that's where the problem is for me. So the performance and everything else, I'm a bit off topic here, is all a bit irrelevant. We picked up 3 points, I'm happy. And if we do that if we play like that and get enough points to get out of it by the end of the season, all good with me. So yeah, that's my position.
Fair enough, Steve. So we'll move that particular question on to Budgie.
Well, as far as an admission of failure or whatever, no, not really. I don't believe it is, because in my opinion, ever since the summer window closed, David Moyes hasn't really been happy with the signings he's made. He's not, brought them in quick enough, and when he has, he's not used them right. So, I think that he's kind of like a duck out of water. Duck out of water with new players. He doesn't know what to do with them. So, as far as rebuilding in the summer, I wouldn't trust him to build a summer fruits ice cream, if I'm honest with you. I really don't think that he's capable of handling this club or any club with this kind of passionate following that we have. Us guys that go there every week. We've got high demands from our manager, and one of them is to play football that we appreciate watching. And I didn't appreciate watching that against Fulham. Yes, I grant you that was what was necessary. It was what was needed, and it was ugly. But I don't think we should have been in a position to have to play ugly football. I think if we'd have had a more expansive, more inventive manager, one that likes to change things up a little bit, we wouldn't be in this position. We would have been playing to our strengths against the clubs that we're playing. We would have played different formations, different personnel, and we probably wouldn't be in this position that we're in now. That's my opinion. A sackable offence, mate. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, everything he does is a sackable offence to me now, because I am David Moyes out. Having said that, I kind of appreciate a little more now why he hasn't used certain players, and I'll use Maxwell Cornet as my example. The other day when he was one-on-one with the keeper and he had, was it Ben Rama to his left?
Yes.
He should have slid it through to Ben Rama. Ben Rama was open on goal. There was an open goal in front of him, and he had the keeper, Leno, was it, running at him, making himself massive. Cornet was greedy, and I think maybe, at that point, I said to myself then, oh, no wonder Moyes hasn't been using him. So I kind of understand with certain things, but no, as far as I'm concerned, Moyes shouldn't have been at our club since before the World Cup. I think he should have gone when we broke up for the World Cup. And I really don't believe we would be in the position we are now had he been replaced.
Fair enough, Budgie. Final word on this particular question to Dennis.
I mean, I think there's one point that hasn't been raised about the lineup. And for me, when I saw that lineup, this was so back to Nick's question about is this a mission summer signings, Moyes transfers and aptitude. I saw it as Moyes saying, it's not me, it's the player, the signings aren't cutting it, going back to basics. And with the exception of Ogbonna, I don't think any of that really improved the side. Well, okay, Kufal at right back because Kerr is not a right back and he had an absolute mare against Newcastle. But Ogbonna came in and had a really good game. Cresswell played okay, better than I'd hoped. Fornells didn't really look sharp because he's barely played. But I think that was Moyes going, all right, well, I've hooked Ben Rama, I've hooked Gued, and I've hooked Kerr because Emerson, for some bizarre reason, because I thought Emerson was our only defender that turned up against Newcastle, really. That's what I took it as. It's a bit of a lot. Like, if this is going to be my last game before I get sacked, I'm going to play the people that perform for me, because these players, in his mind, aren't performing. When the reality is he's not getting the best out of them by making them play at times totally redundant and inept tactics. So that's why I thought it was a last hurrah of the Moyes arrogance, letting out his Jock Stein, Alex Ferguson fantasies that he's living, because in his head that's who he is. I don't think it's a sackable offence picking different players. I wouldn't say that not picking or rotating your squad or dropping players after a 5-1 performance, and as much as we get annoyed with Moyes, and Moyes probably should have gone just after the World Cup, I wouldn't call that in itself the sackable offence. But I think that if we play the way we did against Fulham, we don't get away with it against any of the other teams we're about to play, especially the likes of City, United, Liverpool, and Palace, who were on fire against Leeds. But the one thing I would say, and I'm not going to say the word I would use just in case we're not allowed swearing on the channel, but
Say what you want, mate. Crack on.
As anyone that knows me knows that game at the weekend was like my wet dream, because I love nothing more than a 1-0 shithouse and the other teams losing their mind. The meme of 1-1 and the equaliser being 76% possession for Fulham. I don't care how we play. This is where I'm like, if he didn't give it as much to the fans, I think Allardyce probably would have been remembered a lot more fondly at West Ham as someone that didn't like him at the time. Because I if he won games with that style of football, I don't care. He won games. Obviously, I want us to play good football, but I'd rather we win at the end of the day. And there's nothing I love more than the concept of going away from home, winning 1-0 without even scoring the goal, and only having less than 1/4% possession, and then just walking away with a massive grin on your face. Perfect weekend.
Fair play. Before very perverse sense of humour you've got though, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying there, Dennis. Before we move on to the next one, gentlemen, any final points that any of you want to make before we move this on?
No.
Everybody good? Yep. This is good. Happy days. Right. Next one, and I hope he might even still be in the live chat. This handsome young gentleman submitted a question.
Hey guys, Irish Tommy here. Quick question for you regarding our European adventures this season. Given that Moyes has now been in charge of over 1,000 games and has had numerous European campaigns over that time, with no trophies won, either domestically or in Europe, do you think he's capable of even winning the Conference League, despite the fact that it's a weaker competition than the Europa League, which we reached the semi-final of last season? Or do you think he has proven over the last number of seasons that he is simply not capable of winning a trophy, especially in Europe? And do you feel that as soon as we come up against decent opposition in the Conference League, that we will fail and that Moyes will fail? Or do you think this may be the season where he finally breaks his duck and that he can or will go all the way and win finally a trophy?
That one's on you, Dennis.
Oh, well, one thing I would say is I think Fiorentina in this competition are stronger than Frankfurt were the winners of the Europa League last year on the way they're playing. So I think, although it's a weaker competition, I think it is Fiorentina's to lose, looking on how the draw's gone. Although Nice are no slouches. What I would say is, I think it's tough to say because how many managers have won European trophies that are still managing today? I'd say less than 50, definitely. So I think it's a little bit harsh to say, oh, Moyes, he's been in multiple European competitions. Like, one of them was one of the worst performing Man United sides of all time. A lot of that was at Everton on a shoestring budget, where he'd have to sell a player in order to reinvest a lot of the time under Bill Kenwright. So I do think it's a little bit harsh on Moyes. Can't believe I'm saying that based on how anti-Moyes I've been in the last few weeks. But I do think it's it's a bit silly to sort of throw that out there that, oh, no, he's not going to win it. He can win it. I do think, knowing that as West Ham fans, we're like, oh yeah, no, we're not going to win this. Come on. And survival is going to be the key thing. But I do actually agree. One thing I do agree with Tommy is that we haven't really come up against anyone proper in this competition. Like, it was all well and good beating Larnaca, but we were always going to beat Larnaca, and to beat them 6-0 over the odds. A lot of people are talking like Ghent are going to be a walkover. They're not going to be a walkover. They're undefeated in their last 5 in the league, and they've played Anderlecht and Europa in 2 of those leagues that are decent on the top end of the table. It's not like they're just playing farmers. And I think, honestly, I'd say could draw away from home and a win at home in to get into the semis. Alchemy are a very good side with some very good young players, and I think they should dispatch Anderlecht, and then that's going to be an interesting semi-final. So I don't think this competition is as easy as people are thinking. And also, we haven't really played anyone decent. I know, yeah, we've won all our games in it, but you know, Anderlecht away was our toughest game, and we never really looked in danger. It was just a case of breaking them down for that Skamaka goal. So I do agree where he says that, I think we could get a bit of a reality check in these quarters and semis. The amount of people acting like we're going to walk the final. But I don't think it's quite fair to judge Moyes on that purely because it's his European competition has been quite circumstantial. So
fair enough, Dennis. We'll move that on to Anton.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do underplay this tournament. To be honest, there's a lot of decent teams left in it. Some teams have qualified through different ways and means, whether that's been dropped in from the Europa League, and some teams were also playing in the Champions League last year. So I think that we're in a cup competition, and a cup is 50-50 on the day. You're judged on your Premier League campaign, really. Because it's over 38 games, so you're getting a real gist of actually what's going on. I understand the conference there's been a lot of games played, and you can only play what's in front of you as well. So you've got to go and do a job and do that job well. And we've done that job well. I absolutely agree with the point of we've not had the best of opposition, the highest level of opposition. However, what we have to remember is we are West Ham, and when West Ham play, we usually get beat by this level of opposition. That is what we have historically done in our whole lifetime as being West Ham fans, is come up as a favourite and get beaten. But when we're the underdog, we tend to battle hard and get something over the line. So it's a welcome break from the Premier League, because it should be commended, because we have done really well against teams that historically we wouldn't even we would not walk away with winning all those games in the history of West Ham. You can go back and Oxford a couple of seasons ago in the cup, like getting knocked out. Look at the way we took on Kidderminster. Like we had to bring on two of the big boys and try and get it through in the last minute and score a goal and win the game. So we've got the history there of slumping in these big banana skin games. Again, Tommy, I love you, mate. I disagree with half your points, but that's the nature of being a West Ham fan. I think Moyes can, but equally though, if he doesn't, I'm not going to get over the top. I'll be pissed off that we haven't won another tournament. I'm probably more pissed off at the way that we took the FA Cup and the way we dealt with the League Cup more than anything than we've dealt with the Conference League. I think that we should have gone more at them as if more than what we've potentially gone at the Conference League, and we didn't. So I was more disappointed at that. But it is a cup competition, so we have to remember that. Like it's on the night. It's not over 38 games. You've got to keep progressing as much as you can in the tournament, of course. I'm delighted we're at the quarterfinals, but what would make the quarterfinals more sweeter would be Premier League safety quicker. I don't want to wait to the second last game or third last game. If we can do this as soon as possible, get safety as soon as possible, then go all out for this Conference League, and it would be an amazing feat. And do you know what? If we finished 17th and we won the Conference League, then we've done that, and I would be an extremely happy West Ham fan. And I mean that, it would go down as probably the best year, quite randomly, that we've had in my lifetime as a West Ham fan. I've won a cup, a reputable cup, and we've survived in the Premier League. I'll take that.
Fair enough, Anton. Right, so Steve, you're next.
Well, yeah, do I think he can win it? Yes, I do. Do I think we will win it? Well, I think a lot of people are making the mistake of thinking this is a shoo-in and we can just walk our way to the final, and if we just turn up, we'll win it. And it's not like that at all. But I want to put some sort of context into what it would mean to win this competition for West Ham fans. Now, when we last won a trophy, okay, since then, I have done my O-levels, I've done my A-levels, I've been to university, I've had a career, and I'm now retired. Now, in that time, we have not won a trophy. So to win a trophy would be massive, and I think it would be great. Do I think Moyes can do it? Yeah, of course he can. But so can the other teams that are in it as well. So if we win, fantastic. But I'm not going to get hard on him if we don't, because we're not a shoo-in. I know lots of people think, oh, it's just the Conference League. You still got to win it. And there are still some decent teams in there, particularly at this stage. So, yeah, we can win it. If we don't, we don't. It's just the way of it, way of cup football, I'm afraid. That's my opinions on it anyway.
Last word on this we'll give to Budgie.
Yeah, okay. So can we win the Europa Conference League? Yes, we can. I'm not going to put it down to can David Moyes win it or not. It's not all about him. It's about the players that he uses. It's about the players that are on the pitch on the night. And, you know, like Hanson said, you have to play the team you're in front of, regardless of their status or position in whatever league they're in. You know, you have to play, you know, the team in front of you. You know, West Ham are quite capable of winning the Conference League, but they're also equally as capable of losing against an under-13 side. So, you know, but it's true. I mean, you laugh, but it's bloody true. Kidderminster Harriers, as Anton said, was a bloody good example. We had to bring on the big guns to save the day. That, to me, was an embarrassing game. I'm sorry, but it was. We won it, but we didn't fucking deserve to, in my opinion. Sorry for swearing, but there you go. David Moyes. Now, listen, regardless of whether he's won silverware or not, I don't really think that's a relative point to make. It's a matter of, can he win one now or in the future? Has he got the ability, the drive, the tactical know-how, etc., to do that? I don't believe that he has, although, having said that, I believe that the players that we have, and I include a lot of the new players that we've taken on, I believe that with the squad that we've got, we're quite capable of doing it. I just think the direction from the manager needs to be better. That's my point on it.
Fair enough. Well, that is pretty much the end of this particular broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. We've got plenty more that we could get through, but the format of this particular show, it's an hour thereabouts, and that's pretty much us done. So for those of you that have watched, thank you very much. Please don't forget to drop a like on the stream. You've got no idea what sort of help that makes to the channel and getting us out to places where we otherwise wouldn't get. That really would be a great help to the channel. And before we go, we're just going to give everybody an opportunity to just say their final closing thoughts and their goodbyes, starting with Steve.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for watching. I would say I'm looking forward to the Arsenal game on Sunday, but I'm not. Keep supporting the channel, please, and come on, you Irons.
Thank you. And then we move on. And Dennis.
Yeah, echo those thoughts. I mean, except I'll look forward to the Arsenal game, mainly because, you know, win, lose or draw, we all support West Ham. What I hope is that we don't sacrifice the European game Thursday to try and close Arsenal down from a 0-0 draw to find ourselves 2-0 down inside 20 minutes. But yeah, looking forward. It's confident we'll stay up, hopefully, but we might be having a different conversation next time we do this. And any fans could join us out there in Belgium. Safe travels and have a lot of fun.
And over to you, Budgie.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for everybody that's watching and has made comments and submitted questions. Been fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and like the stream. And also on West Ham Network as well. Don't forget to do the same. Also, just one little point I want to make. David Moyes, if you're watching, or if anybody that knows who's watching, go balls out. Go out there to win every game. Don't go out there to get draws, mate. Go out there, balls out, and you might get yourself a little bit of, you know, love back from the crowds.
There you go, Moisey. Get your balls out. That's what Budgie says. Get your balls out. And last but no means least, Anton.
Just appreciate to you, Gatesy, for having us on the channel. Of course, if you are watching on the West Ham Network, do me a favour, please jump onto Forge from Iron and give them a subscribe. A really good channel, good content as well, and go and check out all the other channels. But I'll do this one because we're on here, so there's quite a lot of people on there. So jump across when the stream's finished and click the subscribe button and go and look at the content on Forge from Iron. And in terms of West Ham, listen, I have gone through an extremely huge transition over the last 4 weeks in terms of my opinion on West Ham and David Moyes. I've seen a little bit of, I suppose, well, not the light, but just I've got a very different opinion to what I had 4 weeks ago. I'm still struggling to come to terms with that, and it's not a great opinion. But what I am going to do is park that, put that behind just now, and focus on making sure that I can be the best supporter that I can be. And I'm not digging out anyone that is thinking any form of difference, but I think the team needs the backing of the fans, and you couldn't help but hear those fans from the game at Fulham. I mean, they are fantastic. They are amazing, and you can hear them every home game. And as Budgie said, you want West Ham to turn up and give the fans something to look forward to. We're not getting that right now. Unfortunately, Budgie, I don't think we're going to get it. I really don't. I think the only closest we it could be the Conference League. I don't know, but at the end, and as Dennis said, they're not going to be an easy team to turn over. But essentially, let's just get the job done. Let's get by this rocky patch that we've had, because we've not been used to this rocky patch for like 2.5 seasons or whatever. I know Premier League form's not been great, but we can outweigh that, I suppose you could say, with the Europa League performances. People hate living in the past, but I am going to continue to do it because it's what could have been. So therefore, back the team. Maybe not the regime, but back the team, and fingers crossed, stay up and win something.
Brilliant. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end it. Suffice to say, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. And as we always do, we would implore you to give your support to the Iron Supporting Food Bank charity. And we will see you tomorrow when Duke and I do the preview for the Ghent game in the Europa Conference League. Come on, you Iron. Stay safe, everyone. We'll see you next time. Forge from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons.